Okay, Francisco, as you know, you've got 15 minutes to present. I'll tell you when there is little time to finish, so you stick to the time. After your presentation, you'll have a seat and we'll ask you some questions. Okay, you can start now.
Good afternoon, professors. My name is Francisco Muñoz. Today I am here to present my research study before you about the use of the mother tongue and its possible impact on EFL learners' self-efficacy in speaking activities. To provide you a little bit of the context, this was the place of this research took place was in Santo University, which is located in Santiago. 22 learners were part of this course assigned for the internship also. And the course was called English Basic 2, which means that a previous English Basic 1 their learners had before. To came to the research question, what the research did were field notes in which they registered all the information that he saw in order to find the phenomenon of a study. One of the key elements that I take into consideration was the tutor teacher give all the contents, in an oral way, and learners were given the activities based only in the course book, which is called touchstones, and he all the time followed that structure, and the course guided like that. Most of these tasks were done in reading and writing, not specifically in speaking, as my research focused on. The learners produce almost nothing in the target language, and when they have to complete an task activity, oral task activity, the teacher model the way that they have to reply, and then the learners could answer the questions. And when he modeled the way of answer was in Spanish. After doing some research, I came to this particular quote. It says, learners who did not use L1 to communicate and negotiate were not able to complete the tasks with the same efficacy. And it was based also in Marco para la Buena Enseñanza, and it claimed that teaching strategies are challenges, coherent, and meaningful for learners. This is really important because the teacher didn't do a report to give the contents, and the tasks that the learners had to do were just based on the program from the course book. They were not very challenges, or they didn't have like an organized situation considering their interest. That was very important. So I looked for the annotated that I did in my logbook, and I came to this research question: how may the use of L1 impact a group of adult EFL learners' self-efficacy in oral task completion? The general objective for this research study was to understand the possible impact that the use of L1 may have on a group of EFL learners' self-efficacy regarding oral tasks completion. The specific objectives were to describe the learner's perception regarding the function of L1 in task completion in speaking activities, and to describe the learner's self-efficacy perception when using L1 to complete oral task completion. The assumption was based specifically in the reference that I presented before, which says L1 helps learners' self-efficacy when they have to carry out the fulfillment of speaking activities. The theoretical framework section, there are type constructs or variables, which are EFL, that we know it is not our main language. L1, it is the first language of a speaker. Adult learner, which is a mature student who is acquiring new knowledge and skills. Speaking, the ability is to produce language and share ideas. The task completion is the outcome of that process. Which process? The process of the activity, when you have to fulfill the objective of the activity. Self-efficacy plays an important part here, and self-efficacy is understood as a way that we perceive ourselves in order to do a successful activity. And this is called by the positive psychology program. It says that it's a belief that we have in our abilities, especially in our ability to meet challenges. So we have stated before about the marco para la buena enseñanza and what it was proposed. The research approach for this was a qualitative research and is focused to comprehend a phenomenon, exploring the participants mainly, because they were the focus of this research and their self-efficacy. This research paradigm was an interpretive one, and these paradigms allow research to view the world through perspective and experiences of the participants, in this case the learners. The research design was proposed by Creswell in his phenomenology design, which is to describe, comprehend, and explore the people's experience regarding a situation or an experience that they are living. But most important is a hermeneutic design. They are parallel in them. The selection of the subject was the whole course that I mentioned at the beginning, 22 learners from their first undergraduate year of science related, and the learners' average was 21 years old. The methodology was based on what Creswell proposed for this kind of design, and it has 6 steps, which is implied inside the research study. The first part was to recognize a phenomenon through observations, establish a research question, specific and general objectives, and assumption. Later, look for bibliography to support the study. In the part of the theoretical role was done that part. The selection of the sample, request the students to be part of the study, and let the tutor teacher knows the date of the application of the instrument. We have 2 final points, which are apply the questionnaire, collect all the data from the logbook, which is my personal book, and the questionnaire, which was the instrument for the learner, and they can provide me the information and point of view that they have about the phenomenon in order to triangulate the information collected. Show and describe the findings and the conclusions that arose from it. The instrument, the first one, was a logbook, and this is very different from a field note, because this is something personal, someone that can use it in order to do diagrams, to link concepts, people, events, and it's not so regular as to put the date, the time, as a field note request. I highlight some parts. For example, se nota que les cuesta construir frases en inglés. That is because what I experienced watching the learners, they seem to be like that. Also, se ven frustrados. It was external experience for me when they had to, when they were dealing with this particular case. The questionnaire was, these were the kind of questions. There were open and closed questions, and in most of the questionnaire, they had to write their personal opinion. That is the internal part of this study. So I had the part that is mine, and also to validate or to support that, we have the internal part. The data analysis based on Creswell, as I said before, I'm going to focus on 2 points that there are the significant statements from the logbook and from the questionnaire, and the meaning units, which were based on these significant statements when the triangulation was done. In the trustworthiness section, we have the credibility, and this, for the purpose of this study, were considered mainly participants and their experiences. That was our focus. In the case of the confirmability, the 2 specialists validate the instrument, which was the questionnaire, and was a psychology and a linguist. We move on to dependability, who take into account that the students related to, that this study is related to learner's perception, and also the data collected from my personal book. And transferability, the general theoretical framework progress was based in a general way, and the constructs and the variables could be done in other contexts. It means that it can be transferable to other studies. The findings. We have here the significant statements that we have, and these statements came to the meaning units in the part of the triangulation. The first one is, I'm going to explain very short, mother tongue is the way that when they have to interact with their peers and also with the teacher. The learning environment exhibits the abilities of lacks that the learners have in the lessons. The presence of the English language, yes, was related to when the students start learning English. Some of them start in secondary, some others start in primary, and other people start at the very beginning of their childhood. The external support is referring to the peer collaboration when they had to adapt, they can ask the other person, and also to electronic devices that they use commonly in the classes. The conclusions. Well, I came to these conclusions, which are learners need L1 to comprehend the English language. It was a vehicle to acquire the foreign language. Many strategies are proposed to understand this conception. Once learners make use of the English form, they can dissociate the mother tongue extraction. So they are like putting in that context, and when they are acquiring the language, they put aside what the L1 postulates or declares. The impact that L1 has to complete the task is determined, because if it is the case that they have not developed the English language autonomy yet, they will feel the need to be supported by the L1. So they are going to go back to those knowledge. And mainly more conscious of L1 users in EFL, not only for them, but for the tutor teacher as well, to consider it in their lesson plans and also as part of the curriculum. The limitations were time constraints due to the internship, so the researcher also have to do certain activities as a trainee teacher. The need of researchers to be immersed for longer periods. That is very important because in order to have a better observation and to understand the participant and the relation between both variables, it could be established a better rapport. So it was important limitation for this. And the application of the questionnaire to more learners. That day they had another activity, tutor teacher didn't let me know a time, so they had 20 minutes to answer the questionnaire, but it was in 10. And also they knew about the situation of the tutor teacher, and they only were 7 people that replied the question. And the contributions is the impact of the mother tongue in learner self-efficacy allows to modify the teacher's strategies, giving relevance to practice oral activities when learners use the contents learned. Finally, in the metacognitive section, in the teacher's flow, I used to think that it was only a person to teach us contents and knowledge, but it was not my case, because when I started doing my interventions, I realized that when I offered them some help or I explained them in a different way from the tutor teacher, they start trusting more and they are participating more. That is strictly related to the internship strengths, weaknesses and challenges, in which I draw learners' attention and motivate them using different kind of strategies and techniques, not only based on the Touchstone's book. The weakness, as my previous years, I tried to deal with anxiety a lot because I want to do everything right away in order to not forgetting any key element. And the challenges, I did a checklist, and that is going to be a challenge for me because I have to adequate the checklist into myself, because there I consider relevant aspects of the class: time, learners' participation, contents given, and so on and so forth. The last one is strengths, weaknesses and challenges in the research, and strengths mainly because we have been doing this for 2 long years. So it's kind of ability to look for reference. The weakness to determine the approach of the research, because I have to do some modifications from the previous term. And the challenges is close with the previous one, because I had the need to broaden my learning horizons, to not focus on one little thing, but to be open to do different kind of learning to myself. These are the references used here, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Francisco.